Welcome to Trans Canada Stories. I'm Cynthia Sweeney, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Emma Stanley. I use she, her pronouns. In this podcast, we go beyond the binary coast to coast, telling the stories of trans people as people. In 2018, filmmaker Sarah Fodey made a documentary featuring survivors of a decades-long homosexual witch hunt in Canada. The film recounts personal stories of dedication and betrayal at the hands of the Canadian government. Former public servants were targeted in what is called the Purge. And in the documentary The Fruit Machine, they came together, united to seek justice, reconciliation, and memorialization. On September 19th, two survivors joined a screening of the film at the Halifax Central Library, followed by a fireside chat. The event was sponsored by TD Bank Group. Today, we are humbled to be joined by Martine Roy, one of those survivors, to talk to us about her experience being targeted within the Purge. So Martine is now here with us in the studio. Martine, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and very humble about it.
And I'm recording from my bedroom today because I have COVID.
The Purge is a difficult topic to talk about, and I can only imagine how difficult it was to actually be involved in it. So I met you through this documentary called The Fruit Machine. Now, The Fruit Machine is about a series of events that took place from starting in the 1940s with Cold War paranoia, leading up to, I think, 2017, when there was a formal apology from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau about what happened. Can you tell me what happened from your perspective?
Okay, so me, I'm really a girl from Montreal, born, raised in Montreal. My father was a cinematographer from National Film Board. I had two sisters, very artsy family. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. Everybody was really a lot of talent, and I didn't have a talent. So my father worked really hard to try to convince me to do something with myself. So I joined the Army Forces to become a medical adjunct, a medical assistant. And I didn't really want to go. I didn't know what I was getting on board with. I was 19 years old. I was seeing a woman in Montreal, even the one that started the first Pride Parade in Montreal. I was with her. And so I joined the Army, and at the first week, I was resisting, calling my mother, asking her to get me out of there. And she was saying, no, I cannot do anything. So I really joined in, and I put my 150%. I cannot tell you that I knew that we cannot be homosexual or not. I didn't grasp that. So I did my training. It was amazing, good training, and I graduated and all that. And then I met a man, and I fell for him, and I started going out with him. So I didn't question myself, oh no, I was seeing a woman before, now a man, or I'm 19 years old. What was the most important was to succeed, because it was heavy training and to make it. So finally I'm transferred to Borden. He is transferred as well to Borden. And while we're both training, at one point I meet a woman at the hospital. And we start talking and everything. And one of the things she tells me is, let's keep our boyfriend, because we're not allowed. And that's the first time I grasped that, and we're not allowed. And I don't even have time that I turn around, I get arrested. It's almost like they read my mind. So I get arrested in the field, and it's a car that comes, and I think they're lost tourists, and they arrest me, and they bring me in that little house to interrogate me. And never I think, oh, I should get a lawyer or what's happening or nothing like that. But then they go about my sexual relation with people, how many times and how, and they get really, it's very humiliating. Mm-hmm. So they release me, they arrest me again, and it goes on like that. Then they let me go. I finish my training. I end up in Ottawa. And finally in Ottawa, I'm at the National Defense Medical Center. And I graduated from my training. I work at the pharmacy, and I get called by the psychiatrist. I'm at the pharmacy, so I'm not really sure why. So I go there, and it was to evaluate me to see if I was rehabilitatable. So finally, it didn't really go very well, obviously. But they let me go, and to the point even that they came back to me and they said, okay, we want to keep you. We want to renew the contract, a contract of 3 years. And I say, okay, I don't want to do this role anymore. I would like to become a com research. So they went on and they came back with the contract and I signed it. And I was going to go to Kingston. And it's only like a month later that they called me at the head office to tell me that I was dishonourably discharged for being a sexual deviant under a law, a policy, where homosexuality was the same that bestiality, rape, and incest. It was in December. It was a shock because I really thought after all that training, and I was really good too, I really succeed well, that never something like that. I could not understand. I could not understand why my sexual orientation and sometimes even my gender was in the way, because we're in the 80s. They didn't really want women in the army. Mm-hmm. It was really new. So sometimes I questioned, was it really because I was a lesbian or because I was a woman and there was a great policy to come after us. So I left the army. I was totally destroyed. I did try to fight with my father. We made it until the chef de l'état-major, that was General Thériault, that told me there was no injustice and that I let myself go. So I stopped fighting from there because I had to take care of myself. I had to go through therapy. And it's only in 1999 that I found really a job that was fitting for me. It was IBM. And when they offered me the job the first time, I said no, because I was sure they were like the army. Mm-hmm. So I started here in New Brunswick in the Maritimes at IBM in 1999 for Y2K. And I discovered a fully inclusive company. The policy was there since 1953 that T.J. Watson put in place about inclusion. So I went through IBM, and it's via IBM that I created the first LGBT group in St. John, New Brunswick in 2000, came back to Montreal in 2005. I created in 2008 with 7 other persons Pride at Work Canada. And for me, Pride at Work Canada was my revenge, was my way of, okay, I'm going to get the workplace. I'm going to change every workplace possible.
All right.
And I think it did work to a certain point. So I was there for 10 years. And through that, I became the president of Fondation Emergence, that has the International Day Against Homophobia. And I'm the one that had transphobia to it by consultation as a president. And then in 2014, there's someone that calls me, and you have to understand, 1984, I got fired. Mm-hmm. The only person I knew that was fired was Michelle Douglas in 1992. And when that happened, I was sure they were going to ring my doorbell and come and see me and apologize and get my job back. But they never did. They never even talked there was a purge. They never. So everybody was so ashamed. Nobody was talking about it. So I didn't meet anybody else until 2014. That's where I met the first time someone else that was affected, and so affected that I felt privileged. And they say, we want to ask for an apology. So I decided to try to help, and it was 2 women from Maritime again, 2 professors from St. John University, I have to say it, Carmen Poulain and Lynn Gutelier, that were doing a research in 2000 and asked me questions. They're the one that pushed in 2014 that a group get together with Gary Kingsman, Patricia Gentile, all academicians together, and we asked for apology. Mm-hmm. And we did. We went in 2015 at Parliament in front of Harper, and I don't think anybody heard about it because it didn't work, right? It didn't get anywhere. So it took the EGAL organization that created the Just Society Committee, where it was all people from all around Canada, mostly from legal activists and all that put together 84 recommendations for the new Liberal Party that just got in with And in it, they asked to put "We demand an apology." So they asked us, can we put it in a recommendation, and can someone from "We demand an apology" comes to Ottawa? So I ran there, and I met for the first time Douglas Elliott and Michelle Douglas live. It was the first time in my life. It was really like, and then again, the story, more and more people going through it, and it was like coming from everywhere. And that's where I joined the Just Society Committee to represent Quebec. And we really, really thought when we give the recommendation to Judy Rebel that she would put them in place. Mm-hmm. But she didn't, not right away. It was taking forever. So in December 2016, I brought my file to Douglas Elliott and I asked him, can we do something about this? And he said, let's do a class action. So that's how we launched a class action in December 2016 in Quebec, Ontario. And we found out there was someone in Nova Scotia, Alida Satilik, that wanted to do it. So we got her on board. And we had 11 lawyers to go fight for it.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
That is quite a story.
I know.
And one that takes place over so many decades.
Thanks so much for sharing that journey from back when you were 19 years old up until 2017 when the apology was made, and then after that the formulation of this documentary, The Fruit Machine. I just want to go back for those who maybe haven't seen The Fruit Machine or don't know the significance of the name of that title. My understanding is that The Fruit Machine as a name was like the formula they used, like a queer detector, as they were spying and hunting and looking for queer people within the military, and a series of questions and traits that they aligned to those who they suspected of being homosexual. Do you want to talk just a little bit about the significance of the name?
Yeah, exactly. It was created by the RCMP. What happened, it was a machine that Dr. Wake of Carleton University that was sent in the United States to study kind of a machine that was looking at showing picture and image, and depending of the eye's pupil shape and all that, they would say, oh, that person is gay or not gay. It seems they tried it for a couple of years, and that was mostly like in the 50s when they started. Because when you're from the community, it's not necessarily written on your forehead. So they were, how can we find the gays? They did all kind of things. And Ottawa, they even tried to do a map with trying to find everybody where they meet out. And then some trade, the way the people were walking, holding their book, which car they were driving, which way they were sitting in the bar. And all that because of the fear that if the KGB, with Russia, would get us to talk because we're gays. So that started with the Russian and the communists and everything. And that was the rationale behind why they were arresting us. So they created that machine called the Fruit Machine. Fruit Machine is really like a satire. We're laughing about the community, and it was such a bad one that it's still in the book. And this machine is at the War Museum in Ottawa. Never really worked. It was because they could not really detect. It was not a for sure thing. So then they went to the other way, which was witch hunt. They were following us. They were taking picture. When they were arresting someone, the goal was to break that person and get that person to give names. And what we found out too, with a researcher, a reporter from the Globe and Mail, is there was a John Watkins that was a diplomat in the 50s. He was a friend of Leslie Pearson, and it seems. While he was in Paris, he had an affair with a Russian guy. The RCMP was so scared that the KGB arrested him that they arrested him. They interrogated him in Paris for many hours, then brought him to Dorval in Quebec. and interrogated him for over 60 hours, and he died of a heart attack. For us, it's the beginning of it, that crazy interrogation that doesn't finish and goes in circle and try to break you. So this story about 1,000 pages just came out to talk about it. And we have to understand this started like after the Second War until 1992. This is a long time.
It's almost unbelievable, when I was listening to, how some people had bags put over their head and put into a car and driven somewhere and then interrogated for hours. And, the psychological torture that, you all went through. During that period of the apology, did anyone that had, participated in the purge, within the RCMP, did any of them come forward and apologize? Or do you ever wonder what had happened to those people?
For sure, we always wonder. The closest I got was someone that was in the legal team that dealt with it, and that today is feeling really bad, but she didn't really have any control. People didn't really have a control on it. You have to understand this was a black and white policy. And when you were in the army, and I'm sure RCMP, you were never questioning decision from hierarchy. You were listening. And that's what I'm trying to find out. Because for me too, it doesn't make sense. I'm sure people raise their hand. I'm sure people say things. It's impossible nobody didn't say anything and accept that all along. And that's why we work really, really hard with the Purge Fund to go and we got about 30,000 archive now on the website from that period. But it doesn't tell us everything. So there's the National Defense too that are doing some research to find out what happened.
I am curious on the topic of documentation. Now, obviously you want the whole story, but I know that the Purge Fund is still fighting to get more documents declassified and released, and it sounds like that is sort of continually a fight. What are you hoping to achieve by getting the full documentation?
When I was working at IBM, there's one thing that I learned is if I don't have the problem, I cannot find a solution. I remember people freaking out when I used to tell them, can you reproduce the issue for me to find a solution? For me, that's it. We need to talk about what happened to get somewhere else. And when we're in denial, then we make it like it didn't happen. While it's dormant, and this is what's happening today. It's coming out left, right, and center. Because people are not well informed. People are misinformed. And that's why I find that documentation needs to tell us the story. I'm going to tell you, we succeed. We went to court and we got our documentation we were looking for. So now we have 30,000. We have almost everything we were looking for. And we have Sven Robinson and Sarah Wortman as well, working on those documents. We want to know what happened. We want to know who were our allies, because I'm sure we had some. I want to know who are the people, because one question I have, and maybe somebody's going to tell me one day, is how come in 1969 we decriminalized homosexuality, but in his own company, in his own house, it was criminal for 23 more years? That I don't understand.
Time to take a break from this Trans-Canada Stories for a TD Connected Communities moment.
In Trans-Canada Stories, we're all about connecting communities. We would love to hear your thoughts on today's shows. Were you aware of the Purge, or is it new information for you? Leave us a message on our SpeakPipe phone line and be a part of the conversation. We'll share highlights from your responses in the next episode. That was a TD Connected Community moment, because community matters.
I still remember listening to the apology. I think my son had transitioned 2 years prior, and I still remember Prime Minister Trudeau's words, I am sorry, we are sorry. And, I couldn't fathom what it was for. I really, there was no connection, there was no context. And then I thought, who is he apologizing on behalf? Where is the we? Where are their apologies? Just watching the fruit machine was just oh, it's just such an eye-opener. And I really hope that it's a film that perhaps educators pull into schools, and make it part of the high school curriculum, for people to learn more about what, our history.
So, if I can jump in here, speaking of our history, particularly as Canadians, I've been really excited about this interview. And so I've been telling all my friends, and I have an older acquaintance. And when I described the fruit machine, because I was trying to get him to watch the documentary, the sort of immediate reaction was, I said, this thing happened in Canada. And he said, yeah, but also in the States, right? And that line just drives me a little bit nuts. There is this built-in Canadian bred defense system of blaming everything on America and assuming that all of our sins come from there. And I teach workshops, and it comes up again and again, this Canadian smugness of that doesn't happen here. And if it did, it was because of someone, some other country, some other culture. And maybe this is just my bias being Canadian, that I feel like it's more of a problem here. But do you think that this film and your story will have a concrete effect on this idea that racism and discrimination of all kinds happens somewhere else, and that Canada isn't like that?
I like your question very much and your point there. And I totally agree. I hear it a lot too. For me, I find that we've been in denial a lot, and we sit on that, and we act as if, and yes, we like to blame others, but no, this happened here. It was really a Canadian product. It was in our military book, CP 19, OCF 1920. It was enforced everywhere. A lot of people knew about it. I meet a lot of military people that tell me, oh, that's what happened to my friend that disappeared. People didn't know because they were really like, even me, my best friend didn't know where I went. And that time we didn't have a cell phone. We didn't have email. We had no way of connecting together. And we were so ashamed that we were not talking about it. Me, I went back to Montreal and people were asking me, what happened to you? Oh, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I was not telling them I got fired for being gay. I think the first time I really came out with that was at IBM because I was so ashamed. And I think it's very sad that we always hide behind that. Like, it's like the 60 scoop for me, okay? I met someone that was sold in a magazine. And when I tell people that, they're like, no, it didn't happen here. And I'm like, yes, it did. It did. We used to sell kids in magazine that we used to take away from their family because they had no water or electricity. And for us, they could not be taken care of. So we have all those preconditioned vision of the way it's supposed to be. And even when I came to New Brunswick the first time in the 90s and discovering Acadian and wanted to put the Acadian flag in Norton and being told, no, don't do that. They're going to burn you down. And I was like, we're in Canada. And so I think it is so important that we talk about the real thing. And like I said prior, I think it's the only way we're going to find solution. And me, I'm still thinking, when I was 18, I didn't want to go from being heterosexual to homosexual. I didn't want to go from one to the other. I just wanted to be myself. And I'm going to tell you a little story. My mother was really, really hard for me on being gay. She was like thinking it's a phase. She was even thinking I was doing it just to provoke her. And she was missing out. And I left for a while. And when I came back to Montreal in 2005, she was so happy that it's like she forgot about that hatred she had. And I was at IBM, and the group at IBM was called Blue Queer. Since 1995, it was created. And queer is not a sexual orientation. It's not a gender identity. It's out of the norm. It's a great name in a way when you think about it. But when I tried to translate it, it was impossible because it was like cul bleu, la cul bleu, ça marche pas, it doesn't work. So she was seeing me struggle trying to find a French name because I'm in Quebec and Montreal. She calls me 2 days later and she said, I found it. And I said, what did you find? The name you're looking for your group. And I'm like, you and all people were looking for that name? I have to listen to this. And she said, nuance. And I was stunned because for me, nuance is exactly who I am. I'm not just a lesbian. I'm not just a white woman. I'm all kind of different little things mixed together. And there's not one like me. I have all my nuance. So, and it's French and it's English. So at IBM, the employee resource group, a business resource group that we call today, is Blue Q Nuance. And for me, that's my philosophy. That's the way I see life. And I really see life as an electricity, as it's electrifying. You meet people, you share energy. And I really, really thought that because of COVID, we were scared of dying, that we would not get where we are today and all day today. So I really hope the documentary helps for that. I'm sorry the documentary was not prior to the apology. That would make more sense. People would understand the apology and understand why he was in touch, because he read the story of Diane Pitre, and Diane Pitre was raped. So that's why he was so in touch when he delivered the apology. She was right in front of him, standing up. So it's important, all the step, and I'm sorry that when you fight a case like this, you cannot put all the pieces. So it comes after. Hopefully now people will understand. And to finish, Cynthia, you're going to be happy to know that Canadian Army Forces bought the right of the movie for 3 years. And Veteran Affairs did as well. And they're using it. And I've been going around to headquarters of the Army. I did a lot of public function. With the Purge Fund as well, we got subtitle, and we even dubbed it in French. So we're really trying to use it as a tool, like you say, because I think it is a great tool.
That is phenomenal. And out of this as well, through the fund that you received to bring this story out into the open, the Rainbow Veterans of Canada was also formed. Is that correct?
Yes, it was a funny story too, because it was an accident. Diane Pitt aunt created a nice crest for us because we were called Serving with Pride. And when I was creating the citation, which is the medal that was given to everyone, I was working with the Herald office. And when I showed them the badge, the crest, they said it was illegal because it has to be ordered by the Army to have a crest. So I said, okay, so let's order one. They say, well, you have to create a legion. And I say, wow, yes, let's create a legion. And that's how the Rainbow Veteran of Canada were created. The Purge Fund funded the whole creation. And now Diane Pitre and Todd Ross are the two co-chairs. And a lot of people are on board, and they work with Veteran Affairs. And it became the best thing ever because now they can help even people that are in the military today, are coming out as a veteran, or people that are older, never really get any support about their sexual orientation.
So with the creation of something like the Rainbow Veterans of Canada, when I'm having these conversations with people who maybe don't know the ins and outs of what's going on all the time, a question that I get a lot is like, haven't we kind of solved this? And it's true, things have gotten a lot better. The conditions have changed, and largely they've changed for the better. So from someone who's been doing this work for many decades, how has the work of inclusion changed from witch hunts in the 70s and 80s to today?
It changed a lot, for sure, because we're allowed to get married. We can have children. But it's never acquired. That's the problem. And that's what's happening now. And I was very proud of where we got. I was proud of the apology. I was proud of the class action. Class action is the biggest class action in the world. There's not another country that did that. The monument, everything. But now something is happening, and we need to gather and help each other, because it's like gender is bothering. And it's not just transgender, it's gender, and mostly the woman gender in general. Anything that is connected to it, and then they're going to touch to our children too. They're really going in a way that is very concerning, but in the same time, we dealt with all that already too. We have at University of Montreal, it's going to be 6 years a chaire for enfants trans. It was just renewed to become a senior chaire. We have clinics, we have people, we have information. And right now, all what's happening, it's disinformation. I have even friends that I'm questioning and I'm asking them, where did you see those things? Mm-hmm. Who told you those things? And I think that's the work of all of us to make sure people are well informed. And that's the problem right now. People are being told or being shown things that are not happening. And they're acting and judging on things that are not real. So it's really troubling. The whole drag thing too, I find is very troubling too, because for me, I think it's the story that is important, And I don't know, when I was a kid, I had people that were telling me story that were looking as a drag of today. And a drag at the end of the day is a woman. So are we saying that women are disturbing? Are we saying that? So it's all that I'm questioning. And I'm a mother, so it's really hard for me to understand. So I'm trying to do the best I can to pass the message and use the purge, what happened to us as discrimination and how it destroyed our life, as an example of what it can be happening right now with what people are doing.
Martine, you're a mother, and you said something last night in the fireside chat that, I don't think people realize how fragile our human rights are, and everything that is going on right here at home, but around the world. But you mentioned last night how if you were in Italy at the moment, you would no longer be a mother. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit on that?
And that's so hard for me because I live in Italy. I have a lot of friends in Italy. I love Italy. It means that the prime minister decide they're the one that the leader in Italy, and it's a woman, mm-hmm. Decided that if you are not biologically connected to the child, you don't have any more right over the child. So the in vitro and everything, and us, we did we did in vitro with my wife. It is her that had the child, but it means that if that law was here in Canada, it means that I would not be their mother anymore. All the paper and everything I did would be unvaluable. So that's what I mean, like abortion in the States. Look what just happened. So it's very important to grasp that it's not because we acquire some right that we always going to have them. We have to preserve them. We have to care for them. And this is why it was so important in the 84 recommendation. I invite you to go on the EGAL website and look at the Just Society Committee recommendation. You're going to see we even helped to put C60 to expunge a file from people that had gross indecency. We even remove a law that was here since we put our feet here that was saying that two men, they have to be both 18. One cannot be 16 like a woman. It could be arrested. So we remove that law. A lot of things change, but people have to be aware, and they have to be aware to make sure we save those and that we don't go backwards.
This may be a difficult question to answer, but if you had the opportunity to sit down with a Department of Education leader, a Minister of Education in one of the provinces right now that, is not New Brunswick, is not Saskatchewan, and they might be in a position where they're determining where they're going to go with allowing, gender affirming education in school. What would you say to them if you had that opportunity?
I would bring them with me to a meeting at the Meraki Clinic to meet with Chevaux Gauche and Andrea Gorskov, 2 doctors that was with Children Montreal, and sit down and let's talk. Because people, like I say, are misinformed. One of the things I can tell you, there's not one child that will go in a clinic that will get an operation from it. And a lot of time they're going to give beta blocker. And a beta blocker is not a new medication. It exists since the 70s. We used it for puberty that was too fast or not fast enough. And this permits to the child to decide or to feel himself, to give him the time, to give him the buffer, and to give as well the doctor and everybody working with that child to make sure that they're doing the right thing, because, the decision, it belongs to the child. At the end of the day, nobody else should be deciding for them. It should be the child. And we did all that. We even put in place a law in Quebec that at 14 you can change your name if you need. Because it is traumatizing to go in a school and see yourself as one gender and being called another gender. And the thing at the end I would say to that person, what does it matter? What does it matter? The child, what you want a child that is healthy, thriving, authentic. What does it matter? That's why I always come back to it's the electricity and not the plumbing that is important in someone. And I find that people really put a lot of time on gender like that. And I'm going to be honest, and I talk a lot with my wife about it, and I was talking to a woman this morning too. I don't feel like a woman all the time. I don't. And there's days I feel way more masculine than feminine. And I just want to be. So that's what people are saying. And we want to get out of the norm. We've been in the norm forever. The pink and the blue, and it's a boy, it's going to go this way. It's a girl, can we just be? And I think that would be helpful. If we go by the study of Aboriginal, and even my wife is a First Nation, kids, when they were born, they were not said, okay, you're going to be a woman and you're going to be, they were just be. And they would let them grow, and they would let them, like, if that child wants to go hunting, they would let them be and discover themselves. And I think that's what we need to do. And I think we should concentrate more on the curriculum than on that. Because right now we're losing a lot of time. And I find that the curriculum in school needs to be changed to be more 2023 for the skills and what people need. Children are somewhere else with all the data, with all the accessibility. We don't need to show them how to access a computer, I think. So we need to talk about something else. We need to be somewhere else. And I don't know why this is coming out so strong right now. I don't know why people are so scared of. I would like them to tell me, what are people scared of about this topic?
I think that's such a good point. And I think you're exactly right. I don't think people would be scared of this topic if it wasn't for sort of that false narrative of fear mongering that is happening, unfortunately. But that is such great advice. Thank you, Martine.
You're welcome.
All right. I think we're almost out of time. I'm going to leave you with one last question. Your LinkedIn profile says that one of your important skills is being authentic. What does that mean for you, and what can we achieve by simply going out and being ourselves?
I think we can achieve that people's going to love us for who we are and not for what we try to look for, like, right? I find that a lot of time we try to fit and look for others, and what's important is us. One thing is, I'm a very spontaneous person. So when I'm not authentic, it's like I lose my voice. It's like things are not coming out like I want them to come out. I know I can be vulnerable like that too. And I know being vulnerable is not easy, but I'd rather be vulnerable than non-accessible, and for me it's important. Like I said, I have 2 kids, and I really want to show a good example. I don't want to show them somebody like that is not happy, or, I want to show and to take risk too. And it is a risk to be authentic, but I find it, I always say it's like an investment. Like the documentary for me was an investment, I have a big mortgage to pay because I'm doing it, but it's a great investment because it's giving back, it's being back. And I don't know for you guys, but me, when I'm not authentic, I cannot be focused and I cannot be productive. So it slows me down. It makes my work harder. And I find I cannot answer people the way I would like to. I always make the comment, like my wife had breast cancer. And if I could not be authentic, I would say what my husband has a cancer. And you start lying about it and all that. And at KPMG, they did a study, 500 employees and more that are not authentic lose about 15 minutes a day in lying. At the end of the year, it's over 1.5 million in lost time. So when people like to talk about money, that talks about money. Yeah.
I wish I could keep you here all day, but I can't. I cannot thank you enough for coming into the show. And I hope everybody listening runs out and watches The Fruit Machine. It is a fantastic documentary. And hopefully we'll be able to have you on the show again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I wish you an amazing day. Thank you all.
It's the end of the road for this episode of TransCanada Stories.
If you'd like more information on our other programming, check out simplygoodform.com. We hope you'll subscribe to our podcast and that we'll see you again next time.